Hey everyone. Yeah, should be up. My name is Mike Pettingell. I'm the Vice President of Business Development and Strategy for Vizsla Silver. We are listed on the Frankfurt Exchange, the NYSE American, and the Toronto Venture Exchange under the symbol VZLA. I'll be making some forward-looking statements. Feel free to read this at your leisure. So, the big question, why silver? Many of you in the room understand the need for this metal. We take a position that this is going to be absolutely critical for the electrification of the planet. If you think about copper as kind of the highway for electricity, well, silver's the off-ramp or the connector. It's already in a lot of the cell phones and the EVs, but as we see this progress, we do certainly see the demand outpacing the supply. So Vizsla Silver, we have an emerging discovery. Our flagship asset is the Panuco project located in Sinaloa, Mexico. We made our initial discovery back in 2020 and have since expanded this. It's one of the highest grade silver primary discoveries in the world. We've got a very experienced management board that brings diverse 185 years of combined experience. We have multiple avenues to re-rate. We put out our maiden resource in March of this year. We're now expanding that to put out a resource update here in December before Christmas. What's feeding into that is a very aggressive exploration program. We're drilling 120,000 meters this year with 9 drill rigs. And we are well positioned to execute. We have 100% ownership of this very large land package. And currently, it says 11 million in cash here and 0 debt, but we've just completed a raise this week, $35 million Canadian. So quick company snapshot, 155 million shares outstanding. That'll change once, this deal officially closes. We've come off a bit, just like most of the companies from our high, but we are still moving forward with our drill programs. Again, one of the most aggressive explorers in the country of Mexico, drilling 120,000 meters. We've got a great analyst coverage list. Consensus in Canadian is about $3.20. Where we're trading today, that represents over 100% return to current market. Lastly, look at the shareholder breakdown. We've got some very strong institutional shareholders involved, but management, insiders, directors, we hold about 16% of the outstanding shares of the company. I won't go over all these names, but we've got a lot of big company experience on our management team and lots of experience in Latin America that really run all facets of the mining industry, from capital markets to development to operations. Notable here is Jesus Velador. He's our new VP of X, so VP of Exploration, and he is a PhD in epithermal systems, which is the type of deposit that we have at Panuco. On our board, industry veteran Craig Perry. He really doesn't need much of an introduction. Chairman of Skeena Resources, CEO and founder of ISO Energy. But a really important name to point out here is Simon Smirlik. He's the current Chief Operating Officer of Ausenco Engineering. Ausenco actually just completed the build of Silvercrest Las Chispas at a fixed cost price just up the way in Sonora. So he's a great feather in our cap when we look to benchmark costs and move towards the next phase of the project. ESG is extremely important to us, as it should be every mining company. We are committed to responsible mining. And there's a lot of buzzwords on this slide, but really what we're focused on is providing these long-term benefits to our local communities. We've got about 200 individuals down on site. About 70% are made up of the local community. We have just recently ticked over 1 million man-hours without a lost time incident, which for an exploration project at this stage is very, very impressive, so we're very proud of that. And the ejido groups, these private land holding groups, they're the ones that really allow you to push a project forward in Mexico. We've got 5 ejidos that cover our district. All 5 we have exploration and access agreements with, but the 3 that cover our resource bases, which I'll get into in a moment, we've recently signed 30-year operating agreements, so we're in a very, very good way with our community. So the project itself, it's located about an hour from the coastal city of Mazatlan. You can see here, 2 highways bisect the property. There's high tension power that also runs parallel. This district dates back to the conquistadors, originally discovered about 500 years ago, but it's never been mined in a commercial or mechanized sense. The most direct analog would be First Majestic San Dimas mine. It does about 12 million ounces silver equivalent per annum. It's located 80 kilometers to the north. They've been producing commercially for 100 years, and on a silver equivalent basis, they've extracted about a billion ounces of silver. We think that we're in the early stages of a San Dimas here at Panuco. So it's a very large package, 14 kilometers long by 7 kilometers wide, 6,800 hectares. And again, it's never been systematically explored on a consolidated basis, not until Vizsla came to acquire the project. We are advancing these high-grade discoveries, and you can see our distribution of our resource bases as they stand. The bulk of it, about 96%, is located within a 3-kilometer radius down in the southwest corner of the map. That's likely where you'll see the first, call it 10 to 15 years of mining. Again, just highlighting the size, scale of this district. The current resource estimate represents less than 5% of the known vein strike on the property. This is a very boring slide, I know, but this is just by the numbers for the resource. There was 8 veins that went into the maiden resource that we put out in March of this year. Every single vein is wide open in every direction. We are a polymetallic deposit with silver, gold, lead, and zinc, but 95% of this resource is precious metals. And of that, you're looking at about 52% silver, which is important because there's very few high-quality silver primary assets out there. And as we go back to the electrification of the planet, the demand for this type of asset is going to grow increasingly. Total all-in exploration costs, this is more of that institutional number, but 23 cents per ounce discovered. I mean, that's capital efficiency at the drill bit that is industry leading. Here's just a cross-section looking at some comparables on the resource, highlighting largely our grade. We've got the size here, and our grade is second only to Silvercrest Las Chispas, which, if many of you I'm sure know, is a bit of a unicorn in our space. As we progress, we are very confident that this grade will bump up, and that's reflected here as we adjust the cutoff grade to move up to a 250 gram per ton. So we've got that grade, we've got the size, and we've got that scale of that large land package that's just vastly underexplored. So our main structures, there's 3 main structures that we're focused on expanding. It's the Copala structure, the Napoleon, and the Tajitos. Copala's been an absolute game changer for us. There's a dark gray outline that you can kind of see behind the color contours. That's the dimensions of the maiden resource component that came from Copala. It was 300 meters long, 200 meters down dip. It made up almost a quarter of the maiden resource. So 25 plus million ounces came from 8 drill holes, all above 200 meters depth. And the reason for that is phenomenal widths and phenomenal grade. The weighted average grade of this structure is now half a kilo. Based on 81 holes, the average width is just under 10 meters. To put that into context, the average vein thickness in Mexico for an epithermal system is just over 2 meters. When you look at Napoleon, our second major resource center, it's 3.5, and Tajitos is 3. So we have 4 drill rigs positioned here right now, just expanding this in every single direction because it's wide open. But you can see some of these intervals here that go up to 80 meters true width. So very hot ounces are coming very quickly right at surface from the Copala structure. Napoleon, it's that second major resource center where you'll see the bulk of resource growth, this December update, coming from Copala and Napoleon. And Napoleon really was, if we were to talk 8 months ago, 6 months ago even, this is where we would be pointing to initiate mining. But obviously that success and those fantastic grades and widths that are coming from Copala has switched our focus. But we're still very excited and encouraged by the results that are coming from Napoleon, particularly a long strike and down plunge to the south. And what that's guided by is this model our technical team came up with. And this is really based on the metal zonation and the alteration that we're seeing in the core. And that gives you a sense of where you might sit in the epithermal profile. And so you typically have this gold-rich zone that's more shallow, and as you get deeper, you get into this precious metals-rich core, followed by an uptick in base metals when you intersect higher pressures, higher temperatures at depth. The system has been tilted slightly to the south, and hence why we're targeting this high-grade zone, but right beneath the gold-rich shallow. And so that's where you'll see the expansion coming from as we update this resource here shortly. Tajitos, we haven't done a whole lot of work at Tajitos this year. This is located about 500 meters to the east of Napoleon. And the reason we haven't done so much work at Tajitos is because of the success we've been having at Copala. Copala is just right adjacent to Tajitos and really gives you a sense of how productive this area is. There's multiple phases of mineralization with several different orientations, hence why we have this center of mass that we're developing within this 3-kilometer radius. And that's located down here in the south, but you can see here this district upside potential, this blue sky potential is pretty remarkable. We've taken samples from across the district. Again, this district has never been consolidated, so it doesn't even have a proper fulsome geologic map. I mean, that's geology 101 to put your map. So we've now got 6 geologists in the field mapping full time. We've mapped only 45% of this large district. But a way to think about how we're going about our exploration. In the east, that's more of your earlier stage where we're mapping, we're taking those initial samples. As we get into the central area, you can see that there's a lot of very high-grade samples, the magentas and the reds, that we are following up on, so reconnaissance drilling on these samples that we've taken, as well as in the west where we're doing advanced stage drilling and resource expansion. This district holds a lot of historic workings, but these are historic in the sense that there was nothing mechanized, so individuals would basically follow the shiny stuff, and if they lost the shiny stuff, they would walk away. We can use those old workings as a vectoring tool to find new mineralization, and so we're doing just that. Again, the center of mass that we've talked about here in this 3-kilometer radius, even you can see here about 2-kilometer cross section that's cut right across our main discoveries. We've got a lot of veins with a big open area right in the middle. We're very excited to test this area, but again, we can only drill so much. 120,000 meters with 9 drill rigs is pretty remarkable. So this slide just highlights the evolution of our understanding of the district. When we came in 2020, you could see the veins, they were pretty normalized here. And as we progressed with our understanding, they're tightening up. And we suspect that as we continue to progress, this district map will be just covered in mineralization. So what we've achieved so far, we've put out our maiden resource that was focused on that southwestern portion. We've completed initial metallurgy at Napoleon. Napoleon does host the base metals, whereas Copala, Cristiano, Tajitos, that part, 500 meters to the east, it's really only precious metals. But we've completed the met work there. We're completing the met work at Tajitos, and then we'll subsequently start our Copala met program. We do have 100% ownership of the district. We had 2 large option agreements that we took out in August of last year. And to date, we've completed just over 210,000 meters of drilling with no sign of slowing down. So for us, the next steps are really to first put out this resource in Q4 here, and then we'll look to do an initial scoping study and wrap economics around this project. So just on a comparable sense, we do see some significant re-rate potential on the horizon. If you are to look at a cross-section of these explorers and developers, we feel that our most direct comparables would be Mag Silver's Juanicipio and Silvercrest Las Chispas. Direct comparables for their grade width averages, their district scale upside, and although these guys are now in production, Vizsla is in the early stage without economics. We have to put the numbers up on the board and continue to de-risk through studies, but we feel that we'll move to the right of both of these charts in step. And you could see here these 2 companies as our direct comparables traded an EV per ounce of $531 US and typically traded a market cap of $1 billion. As of the timing of this report or this slide, it was we were trading at $180 million US valuation. We'll skip over some of this stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maybe one question.
Oh, sure.
One question. We have one question.
Yeah. Questions?
Questions? Here.
For all the energy in the facility for the power lines in the
Yeah, there's high tension power that runs parallel to the project. We do have to do the CFE studies to determine what our power needs will be and what we can actually get from the grid. But there are alternatives in the area. Hydropower is one of them. Yep, plenty of water for everything that we're doing at this stage of the project, the exploration stage. But there's lots of aquifers, and one of the main targeting. That benefits our targeting is the fact that the old timers, they stopped at the water table. And so, we do have plenty of water. When we need it, we'll tap into it.
You want to develop the mine yourself, or?
We at Vizsla really only like to focus on what we can control. And we can't control an acquirer putting in a bid to take over the company or the asset. So we are fully committed to moving the project forward ourselves, but we are entrepreneurs. And if the right offer does come, we'll certainly take it into consideration.